Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of the Wild Doggies Fan podcast. If you're new here, please like the video, comment down below, subscribe and stay tuned for all future videos. Welcome to episode 15. My name is Joseph and I hope you all enjoy this episode. This is going to be a huge episode today. This will be the end of my off-season coverage and the beginning of pre-season will start next week. I know episode 15 was meant to come out last week, but I'm very glad that I took the week off because so much has happened since last episode and there's so much to cover. I can't wait. And without wasting any more time, let's dive straight into the content. The very first thing I want to cover is a huge thank you to everybody who's followed me on Instagram. For the last month or so, I've made it my goal to aim for 100 followers on Instagram. At this exact moment of recording, we are 104 followers. I am so incredibly grateful to every single one of you that decided to follow me. I'm so glad I have the opportunity to share my passion and love for footy. I'm just so happy to be able to do this as a hobby, as a passion. Like, this is a huge milestone for me. I'm so thankful and blessed to be able to share my passion for my team. Bigger and better things are coming for this account. It should be on the screen by now. Please, if you haven't followed me over there, please do so. We're trying to grow this page as big as we possibly can. I'm so grateful to be able to do this. Thank you, everybody. Let's get into the football content. So, the first thing I want to cover is the Pacific Championships finals. Over the last 2 weeks, the Pacific Championships have come to a close, and the last 2 games of football for 2024. The first game was the Kangaroos vs Tonga at CommBank Stadium. The Aussies get the win 20 points to 14 in what was a phenomenal game to watch. Now, for the last couple of weeks, I've seen the Tongan community get so passionate and up in arms for their team, and to see the attendance on Sunday, 28,815 people were at the venue. I think those numbers would have been a bit higher, because at the stadium it was just a sea of red and white. There were more Tongans at this game on Sydney home soil than there was Aussies. And during the game, the Sipatao, that was amazing at the start. That gave me goosebumps. And then the crowd doing their hymns, the singing, the yelling, the cheering, like that was electric. I absolutely loved seeing that stuff. And I think stuff like this really elevates the international game on such a huge scale. I'm so looking forward to next year's international games. I believe it's Tonga, Samoa, and New Zealand, so that's going to be huge. Now, the Aussies themselves, they got the job done. You know, I expected this. I knew it'd be a close game. Tonga, man, their forward pack is immense. Like AFB, Ola Kawatu, Jason Tamalolo, like they were all outstanding. Even the likes of Felice Kafusi, he was fantastic. Eli Katoa. And for the Aussies, it was our back 5. Well, actually, really our back 7 that did most of the big work. Tom Dearden had a phenomenal game. Lomax was really good. Turbo was phenomenal. The Hammer being the Hammer. Xavier Coates was just being great as always. Edwards was a bit quiet this game, but it still did a lot of the hard work. Like it's a great combination. The Aussies 1-7 and then the forward pack of the Tongans. It created just a great game. You know, Turbo got a try double. Coates and Hammer scored a try. And then for the Tongans, Sione Katoa scores first. Then Ola Kawatu scores. And then Eli Katoa scores, which makes this a very close contest. Again, to be only in a converted try difference between the two sides, that is immense. And then after the game, even though they lost, the Tongan fans were just going ballistic. I went to work right after this game, and I got to see like the crowds all piling up. They were just blasting the music, singing, dancing. It was just it's so great to see people be so passionate about their football team. It's just growing the game more and more. And yeah, I was very impressed. Both teams played really well. And yeah, not much to say about that. It was just a fantastic game. Then we move on to the last game, the relegation game. The Kiwis versus the PNG Commonwealths. This was also at CommBank. Kiwis got the job done, 54 points to 12. It's what you expected, right? Like, I know I predicted, I tipped the Kiwis to win by only 1 to 12. That was me favouring the PNG a little too much. One's a highly class side with so many fantastic players, like Casey McLean, who's I think 19 or 20, in his debut for New Zealand, who's started this year in Jersey Flegg or Harold Matts, one of the two, then goes on to be debuting for New Zealand and then scoring 4 tries. That's insane. That is crazy stuff. But it was against PNG. Then this was a relegation game, so New Zealand really had to, they had to step up. And what was also great was this was Sean Johnson's last ever game, proper last game. I know he had his fairy tale ending against the Sharkies, but he got to represent New Zealand one more time. He got to save them from relegation. He got the kick conversion. It was just great stuff. Really good. Really not much I can say about it. I didn't get to watch this game live. I watched the highlights. It was really good. Kiwis were just too dominant. Pure and simple. They were just spraying the ball and just scoring tries for fun. It was just a really classy game from New Zealand. I think my player of the match has to be Casey McLean. And for the Aussies, and the Aussie versus Tonga game, my player of the match is Tom Dearden. He had a try, he had 4 tries. All 4 tries he got an assist from. He was great. He had several line breaks. He was fantastic. And if he had just a better first 2 games, he could probably win the Golden Boot. However, I think he'll probably go to either Turbo, Herbie Farnworth, or AFB. One of those 3. But that's really it for the Pacific Championships. There's not much else really to cover. They were just fantastic games. All had their emotional moments. SJ saying farewell one more time. Tonga getting to play on such a big stage, and the community getting so up in arms about it, and getting so united. The Aussies, getting the clean sweep, winning all 3 games that they played. That was fantastic from them. And overall, just a really good Pacific Championship series, and next year I think will be even better, in my opinion. So that is a wrap to my Pacific Championships review, or Pacific Championships finals reviews. Now we're going to move on to a whole bunch of signing news. The very first thing, this was announced yesterday. Bronson Xerri has re-signed with the Bulldogs. He'll be with us till the end of 2027. I'm so happy about this. He was a fantastic centre for us this year. He came in round 5 and he just immediately made that centre spot his primary role, or he made it his jersey. And I remember a couple of weeks ago I was saying that of all the players we need to be re-signing, one of the big ones was Sexton and Xerri. One of them's done now. We've now signed Bronson Xerri for a few more years. I'm very happy about that. He was fantastic this year. He scored a whole bunch of tries for us. I remember I think from rounds 18 through to 25, I want to say, he was scoring about 1 try a game, roughly. I think he scored 1 in a whole bunch of games, and then he scored 2 against the Dragons at Cogra, which came to a 1 try per game average across those 7 weeks, 7-8 weeks. That was really good. He was just reliable, and he was very consistent. He had a lot of pace on him too, man. He set up the Foxx for a lot of his tries when they paired up, especially in that Melbourne game. So yeah, Bronson Xerri is now re-signed with us for a few more years. I'm very happy with that. Huge congratulations to him. Can't wait to see him playing with us next year and beyond. Very excited and very happy about that, especially when you see how he hasn't played the game for 4 years. He's had some controversy, but he's made up to the Bulldogs for having faith in him, and now we're each are repaying each other. He repaid the Bulldogs for having faith in him by playing so well, and now we're repaying him for playing so well for us by giving him a contract extension. And we would have been stupid not to do that, I'll be honest. Like, he is a very important part of our team, and he's a great center. And, the fact he's so dedicated that he wants to play Origin, he wants to represent the state, he wants to achieve so much. I think a player with that much hunger, he needs to be at the Dogs, and, I'm so happy we got to re-sign him. Now, that was re-signing news. Now for some signing news. The very first one, Clint Gutho to the Dragons. I kind of saw this coming. I knew it was either going to be Cowboys or Dragons were going to pick him up. After being released from the Eels, only those two clubs were really going to go for him. And out of the two, Dragons made the most sense. A coach like Shane Flanagan and a player like Gutho, they're just made to play well together or work well together. As much as I like to make fun of him for being a bit of a princess, a bit of a whinger on the field, he's still a hard worker. And, he always gave it 110% effort at the Parramatta Eels. And, yeah, he's with the Dragons now. It's very weird seeing him in Dragons colours. All the photos have been coming out of him wearing the training jerseys and, shirts and stuff. And just doesn't look right. When you're so used to seeing him in, blue and gold, it's just weird to see him in red and white. But it's his team now. It's his home team. It's the team he'll be representing now for 3 years. Good luck to him, and we'll be seeing him round 1 next year. Next one, and fuck me, this one is going to be a pain in the ass to talk about. Josh Adokar, the Foxx, has now signed to the Parramatta Eels, effective immediately. When I heard all the rumors about this, I was thinking, surely not. And then the post confirmed, I think, okay, that's really shit, but it is what it is. And then, I think 2 days ago, they put out the official announcement that he signed with them, and then all the photos of him wearing the jerseys and jump training outfit, and him at camp. I'm like, oh my god, it just sucks. I get it. What he did was wrong. We had to let him go. That I'm not upset about. It's the fact that he's gone to Para. Of all clubs, I get it. They'll probably maybe one of the only two clubs actually aiming to sign him. But man, our main rivals. This is like if Daniel Tupou decided to go sign at South. That's what this is like. This is like a well-beloved player at one club going to go sign with another club. The enemy club. And it just doesn't look right. It doesn't look, and it's just, my eyes. It's a pain to look at, the Foxx in blue and gold. This is just going to make King's birthday an even more intense matchup, because now we're going up against the Foxx. That's just really, it's gonna be a real spectacle. I think next year the Dogs and Para games are gonna be really interesting now, because Parramatta have a lot to play for. So do Bulldogs, and now we're going up against the Foxx. He literally joined the club the year after we won the Spoon, and he played such a pivotal role in us rebuilding and becoming a great club again. And now he's gone to Parramatta. It hurts. It's a pain in the ass. I'm very disappointed. But again, if it's the only club that was offering him a contract, what can you do? Again, as I've been saying to all these players, good luck to them. And I'll be looking forward to verse them next year. Now, Terrell May has signed with the West Tigers. After Bulldogs seemed like they were the hot favourites, ultimately we withdrew from trying to sign him. Then it became a race between the Dragons and the Tigers, and ultimately now the Tigers have picked up Terrell May. And you've got to be very impressed with the West Tigers for who they've been able to sign over the last 12 months. Jerome Luai, Sania Taruva, Jarrell Skelton, Terrell May, Royce Hunt, Jack Bird. I'm probably missing a few more, but those are the main ones that I know. Like, that's an impressive roster. You look at their roster now on paper. You got Galvin and Galvin and Lua in the halves. You got Taruva and Skelton on the wings. You got Royce Hunt and Terrell leading the forward pack. Appy at hooker. Like, you got some like really good players in your squad. I'm very, very curious to see what's going to happen with them next year. Again, I'll cover all these teams, like the 2025 season, in my preseason videos, which will be coming over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, it's very interesting that Terrell is ultimately going to sign with the Tigers. And that leaves open to the rumor or the question of, with all this salary cap money the Roosters now have, who are they going to go sign? My money is on Ben Hunt, but we'll see what happens over the next week or so. I reckon they'll make a play for him soon. Last bit of signing news for this week. Enari Tuala has now signed with the Bulldogs. And I'm very excited about this. You know, he's a great player in the Newcastle system. I think one of his biggest moments was when he scored that like full field try against the Bulldogs in 2023. He's a great outside back. He's a real solid player. I think him, Montoya, and Wilson will all be now training hard and trying to battle it out pretty much for that number 5 jersey. Because Kiwis is obviously locked up jersey number 2. But I think it's just great depth as well. Because let's say Montoya gets the number 5 jersey and then maybe he gets injured or something else happens or one of our centers get injured and then Kiwis has to step in. Boom, we have wingers. We now have like multiple wingers who we can alternate. Plus, Tuala's a center. So like we can also maybe chuck him in the centers if something happens. But I'm very happy about this signing. Great depth. Welcome to the Bulldogs. It's another great sign. We've made some pretty good signings. We're just missing one more key signing. For the last maybe like several days, Pappenhausen seems like the next big player we're about to sign. But literally like an hour ago, it was pretty much confirmed we're no longer going to be signing him, and he'll be looking to extend his contract with Melbourne. But that's okay. I'm actually not too mad about that. I'm very happy with that. I'd much rather we use that money and go sign Leo Thompson. He's the player we need to be signing. He's a big forward, and we need just one more big forward for our forward pack, and we're golden. We are set. And yeah, again, good luck to all these players at the new clubs. Very excited to see them all next year. And yeah, that's a wrap to signing news. Now I'm going to do my NRL 2024 wrap-up finale. What this is pretty much all my main categories of the NRL 2024 season and just roughly summarize them. So, we'll start at the bottom of the list. Tackle of the year. As we discussed, the William Kikau tackle on Lussick in round 18 was my tackle of the year. Try of the year. Gerald Skelton's try against the Broncos in round 21. That was a phenomenal try. Stadiums I went to 4. I went to Belmore, Accor, Combank, and Cogra. Amount of Doggies games I attended this year, 12. And those 12 games were the Parramatta game in round 1, Belmore Titans game round 3, the Knights game in round 7, the Dragons game at home in round 12, the King's birthday game against the Eels in round 14, round 17, 18 against the Sharks and the Warriors, rounds 22 and 23 at Belmore and Cogra against the Raiders and Dragons, then the Manly game at home, Cowboys game at home, round 26 and 27, and then finals week 1 against Manly. I went to all those games. The amount of games I attended, though, was 13. I went to the Rabbitohs and Melbourne game, I believe, round 23 on the Thursday night. Signing of the year, Stephen Crichton. No surprise there. Player of the year, Jerome Hughes. Again, no surprises there. Worst game of the year, I'm going to give it to Titans versus Tigers. This was at Leichhardt Oval. That was a really bad game. Game of the year, Dogs vs Para, round 14. Now, most disappointing team, the Brisbane Broncos. The most improved team, the Bulldogs. The best defensive team, in my opinion, was the Bulldogs. The best attacking team was the Roosters. Worst team of the year, the Parramatta Eels. And then my team of the year, the Melbourne Storm. And that is my little wrap-up finale for NRL 2024. Now, last thing we're going to cover before we get into part 5 of my season review. The Bulldogs have released their 2025 jersey. They're both their home and away jersey and all their training gear. All that's been posted and promoted. I think it looks fantastic. I love both of them. I've had a lot of anticipation waiting for it. I never got to see it this year or like last week or so. I personally think they look fantastic. Our home jersey looks so good. I do think though the V ends a little bit too early and just the logo looks a little too big in the middle, but it still looks fantastic. The jersey I really like is the away jersey. That looks fantastic. And I put out a little voting poll on Instagram on which jersey was most people preferred. And whichever jersey got the most votes, I'm going to end up buying. The away jersey got the most votes, so I will be buying the away jersey for next year. I think that couples really well because I already have a home jersey in my 04 Heritage jersey. So I think getting the away jersey really pairs the two together. I really want that logo. Like, I really need that logo. It's like some form of item I can buy with that logo on it. So I think getting the away jersey was really good. I'm very happy with this jersey. Love the logo. Love the design. Can't wait to wear that in the kettle next year. Now we're on to the moment you've all been waiting for. My season review for the Bulldogs. I was saving this for last because obviously they're my team. They're the team I want to cover the most. They're the one I'll be going the most in-depth into. So let's get straight into it. So the stats I'm about to read come from Bloke in the Bar. They provide these stats. So in 2024, the Bulldogs came 6th. They had 14 wins and 10 losses. They scored 529 points and conceded 433. You compare that to 2023. They came 15th, so third last. 7 wins and 17 losses. Scored 438 points and conceded 769. We conceded about 300 and 36 points less. Like, that's a huge difference. Like, that's so impressive. Like, I think that's what I mean by how much we've improved. But we'll cover that in a little bit later. So, attacking stats, we scored on average 22 points per game. We had 4.9 line breaks per game. We had 28.5 tackle breaks per game. We had 1,448 meters per game. We had 8.2 offloads per game. We had 29.4 tackles in the opposition 20 per game. We had 10.4 errors per game. And we completed at 78%. Now, in terms of defense and discipline, points conceded per game, 18.3, 16th, which is second best. Missed tackles, 37.5 per game, the third most. Penalties conceded, 5.6 per game. Across the entire year, we had 7 sin bins and 0 send-offs. Now, looking at those stats, we had a fantastic year, right? Like, the big one, obviously, everyone wants to complain about is the missed tackles. Third most. But at the same time, you've got to think about, missed tackles is such a misunderstood stat nowadays. Everyone thinks, you missed a tackle, that means, you're bad defense. No, it's because the way our defense system works is, yes, the player may miss the tackle, but they're slowing down the opposition player, which gives the other players a chance to then quickly tackle him. I'll give you an example. Let's say, Dogs are versing Dragons, as an example, and, Zach Lomax is making a run, and then Reed Marnie tackles him, or, attempts to tackle him but fails. He's then slowed down Lomax enough for a player like Max King to kind of wrap him up and then tackle him. Or, like, let's say it's fifth tackle, we've just kicked the ball, and, like, Scott Drinkwater's picked up the ball. Kickout will run in and try and tackle him. He'll miss the tackle, but he's then slowed down Drinkwater just enough for, like, Crichton and Sherry to wrap up and try and drag him into the goal area, which then could result in a goal line dropout. Like, that's what I mean by how misunderstood missed tackles are, and why for us, yes, we may miss a lot of tackles, but that was kind of a reason. It was designed to slow down the opposition for other players to then come try and tackle him and obviously stop momentum. And then, like, also, I did say we were the best defensive team, but we were the second best, realistically. But we were the most consistent the whole entire year. Up until the very end, we were the most consistently best defensive team. And for like maybe 2 weeks, we were the number one defensive team. Like, and you gotta look at how it was last year. We were the worst by a mile last year. Like, I think I remember reading a stat, like 32 points a game we used to concede. 32. Like, that's really shit. That's bad. Like, that's terrible. And then now only 18.3. Like, that's fantastic. Like, that is so good. And I was so happy, so impressed with that. Like, that can never be taken away. That's what I mean. In terms of where we improved, obviously our defense improved. I think our team morality improved so much this year. Like, you look at last year, if we conceded 2 tries in like the opening 20 minutes, all heads went down, we gave up, and we'd end up conceding another 20 and we'd lose the game by like 50. But this year, if we had any minor setback, we'd hype each other up. My favorite moment was my favorite example was round 14. We're down 18-10. Kurt Mann just got sent to the sin bin. Stephen Crichton looks at the rest of the team, and he starts like clapping his hands, lifting them up in the air, getting all like hyper, and he's just amping up the other boys to remind, hey, this is what we trained for, this is what we're ready for, and we end up winning that game. So I think there's our overall team morality improved. I think also just the way we attacked, our attack improved as well. That's another underrated part of our game. It improved. Like, we had like high scoring games that we hadn't put on scores like that in like years. Like the Dragons game, we won 44-12. We haven't scored 40 points since like 2012. Like, we had some really great attacking games. Our attacking, pretty much all of our stats improved, but the main areas was our defense, our discipline, and our team morality. Where we need to improve upon, I think, much as our attack did improve, there's still so much room for improvement. We had some really low-scoring games, back-to-back golden points, but they were already low-scoring. Also, I think our error control, like some games like the Raiders game and Magic round, or like the last 10 minutes of the Manly game in the finals, the Panthers game, what's another game? There was a few other games. The Cowboys game in round 20. Like, we had some really poor games. We just had a lot of errors in us, and it was very disappointing. But again, it's young. It's a very young team. They're going to make errors like that. Another thing we need to improve upon is our ability to ice games. Yes, we may have won 2 golden point, but there was a whole bunch of games that we could have won if we just iced it. I'll cover those games a bit later. But yeah, that's where we improved and where we need to improve upon. Now, the very next thing I want to do is I actually want to go through all of our players and give them a like ranking and rating and all that. And how I'm going to do this, I'm going to go to, because I don't want to go just to our our player bio and just do that, because obviously not every player played, and that's just a lot of players to cover. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to our last game. I think a game where we were fully fit. I think round. Actually, I don't think there ever was a game this year where we were fully fit. So I'm going to go to round. I'll do our last game. round 26. No, round 25 actually was probably when we were our most fit. So I'm going to go through that lineup and just give them a rating and talk about their stats and all that. So our fullback, Connor Tracy, he had a fantastic year in 2024. He played 22 games, scored 7 tries, had 11 try assists, 78 tackle breaks, line 9 breaks. In terms of defense, he made 74 tackles, a 70.5% tackle efficiency, and missed 31 tackles. If you ever look at the way he played for us this year, he was our 18th man, I believe, for round 1. He was a replacement. He then was our wingers from rounds 1 to 6. He was our winger, even though he really played fullback in round 6. Then round 7, for pretty much the rest of the year, he was our starting fullback, replacing Blake Taaffe. And from that moment onwards, things really started to change. He was a very reliable fullback. And that was always our biggest issue, was having a reliable fullback, and which we finally got this year. He was fantastic. He really helped shape up our attack, especially on that right side. He was fantastic to watch, really. I was so happy the way he performed. And I was whenever there was a fit tackle kick, I was never worried about him dropping the ball. I think, without a doubt, his best game for us was in round 21, when he beat the Broncos 41-16. He scored 3 tries, 3 try assists. That was his best game for us, without a doubt. Another one was probably the Parramatta game in round 14. So overall, I'm going to give Connor Tracy an 8 out of 10. Alright, moving on to our main 2 wingers for the year. Our first one, the Lebanese international himself, Jacob Kiwis, played 25 games this year and scored 12 tries, 1 try assist, 111 tackle breaks, and 18 line breaks. He made 186 tackles with an 84.6% tackle efficiency. Alright, if you look at he played every game for us this year, never missed a single game. One of the only few that played every game for us this year. He scored a lot of tries for us. He was really good at coming out of our own end. He was just fantastic this year. Again, he was my winger of the year. He had the most run meters out of any player. He was our hardest worker. And you have a look, he scored his first try for us against the Titans in round 3. Scored 1 against Newcastle. And then he went on a bit of a try-scoring period where against the Panthers, the Raiders, and the Dragons, he scored a total of 4 tries. Then he scored back-to-back against the Cowboys and Broncos. Scored 2 tries against the Dolphins, 1 against the Warriors, and then he scored the first try in the finals game against Manly. When you compare it to his other 2 years, this was obviously his big standout year. He was fantastic. He was really good. His offloading game was really good as well. And he was just also another really reliable player, a hard worker, man. That guy always was just running hard, trying to break tackles and push through players and set up other guys for tries. Like, I remember him constantly trying to give the ball to other players, but also just backing himself to try and score tries. He was fantastic. He was really good. One of our biggest standouts this year. I got to give him a 9 out of 10. Actually, 9.5 out of 10. Move on to our other winger, Josh Adokar. His stats have been removed since he's no longer part of our team. But from he was solid this year. A lot of injuries. Had 3 big injuries this year, actually. But when he was on, he was solid. I'd give him a 6 out of 10. Move on to our 2 centers. First, we'll cover Bronson Xerri. He played 19 games this year and scored 10 tries, 4 try assists, 39 tackle breaks, and 10 line breaks. Made 171 tackles and had an 80.3% tackle efficiency. He didn't get to play for us until round 5 against the Roosters, and from then on, he was just always part of our team. He scored his first 2 tries against Newcastle and Tigers in round 7 and 9. He then got to score against Newcastle in round 13. And then his try-scoring rampage began. He scored 1 against the Warriors in round 18, one against the Cowboys in round 20, one against the Broncos in round 21, didn't score against the Raiders in round 22, but then scored 2 tries against the Dragons at Kogarah, scored a try against the Dolphins, and then against the Warriors again. So from round 18 through 25, he was scoring 1 try per game, which is an amazing stat. He was a great try scorer if you wanted to pick him for anytime try scorer, which I don't think I actually did during that period. He was outstanding. He was really good. I was super impressed. You know, he really had a lot to prove for us this year, and I already spoke about him early on when I was talking about him re-signing. So I'm going to give him a 8.5 out of 10. He was a solid standout for us this year. Now the next player, our skipper for 2024. I've said it several times, he was our best player. He was outstanding for us. The man himself, Stephen Crichton. Just pulling up his stats now. Alright, Stephen Crichton. He played 21 games for us this year and scored 10 tries and had 1 conversion attempt, and he got it. He had 8 try assists, 42 tackle breaks, 9 line breaks. He made 232 tackles and had a tackle efficiency of 83.4%. So he scored his first try for our first game this year against the Parramatta Eels. Then scored against Newcastle, round 7. He then scored 1 against the Raiders and the Dragons, then 2 against Parramatta in round 14. Then scored another 2 against the Raiders, scored 1 against the Warriors in round 25, and then scored 1 against Manly in the first week of finals. He was, without a doubt, our best player this year. He was fantastic, phenomenal. You know, as our captain, he was a big talker on the field. He was very motivational to the players. The Eels game, he was, for that last play that got us to win the game, he was controlling the field. He was commanding the players, telling them what to do. It was great morale, very inspirational. He scored that fantastic try against the Raiders where he chipped that kick, perfectly weighted it between 2 shoulders of Raiders players, and then ran it around them both and then scored him. He backed himself to score. He did that a lot, actually, even against the Dragons and Manly. He chased kicks down and backed himself to score. Need to say more. 10 out of 10. He was fantastic this year. Moving on to our 5'8" for the year, Matty Burton. So, he played 23 games for us this year, scored 9 tries and 74 goals. He had 9 forced dropouts, had a goal conversion rate of 74%. He had 13 try assists, 12 line breaks, and made 408 tackles. Wow, that's a lot. He scored his first try for us against the Bunnies in round 4. Scored a hat-trick against the Roosters in round 5. Scored 1 against the Panthers and the Raiders rounds 10 and 11. Scored a try-double against the Dragons in round 12. Then he scored 1 against the Dragons in round 23. And that was the last time he scored, but he kicked a whole bunch of goals for us. Again, he was a driving force in our team. Like if our middles didn't have that really good of an attacking set because we're a smaller forward pack, he'd boot the ball to like the opposition's 20, and that's what kept us in most of these games. The biggest example was the Cowboys game where we lost 44-6. He wasn't playing that game. We got absolutely humbled. So, yeah, Matty Burton was fantastic. He kicked 2 field goals to win us games. Another player that was in pretty much every game for us. He missed a few because of Origin and 1 because of a concussion. But he was fantastic. He was really good. Unfortunately, though, his biggest knock, though, was his goal-kicking conversion. A couple of games we lost purely because he just simply couldn't make his conversions. And I don't want to talk too negatively about him, but I have to because, unfortunately, there were so many games we could have won if he was just a better goal kicker. Biggest example would be the Melbourne game, the Rabbitohs, the one against the Raiders in Magic Round, the Cowboys game round 20, the Manly game week 1 of finals, just to name a few. But nevertheless, he was still fantastic for us. I'll give him a 8 out of 10. Moving on to our halfback for the year, the main one. We want to talk about Drew because we were trying to stay positive here. Talk about Toby Sexton. He played 16 games for us this year, scored 1 try and had 5 goals. 12 try assists and 8 line breaks. So he played his first game for us against the Roosters round 5, but he was a reserve. He was 18th man. He got to play for 25 minutes. But he didn't get his main starting role at halfback in his first big performance until round 12 against the Dragons. And that was when we started on our big run. He didn't score a try until round 27 against the Cowboys, but he was a halfback. His main role was to just set up other players for tries, have good kicks, which was mainly Birdo's role, but he was just fantastic for us. If you look at the wins we got as soon as he joined, we win 3 in a row against Dragons, Newcastle, Parramatta. We then win 2 against Sharks and Warriors. Then we go on that 5-game win streak against the Broncos, Raiders, Dragons, Dolphins, Warriors. He played a pivotal role in the majority of those games, mainly the Broncos one and the Dragons game at Cogra. Those were his 2 best games for us, in my opinion. He was fantastic. He was also really good. Didn't get to see enough of him, though, and towards the last couple of games, he'd always try to kick a grubber on like tackle 3, which I think 9 out of 10 times didn't work. So that was very disappointing. And we didn't get to see that much of him, unfortunately, because he missed like the first half of the year. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. Moving on to our starting prop, Maxi King. Alright, big Max King. He was fantastic for us this year as well. He was the biggest body and our main leader of the forward pack. He played 19 games this year, didn't score a try, so he's still I think he's scoring try like 70 games, so he's got to try and do that soon. In terms of defense, he made 676 tackles with a tackle efficiency of 95.2%. He was just a big commanding body in so many of these games. Like on average, he was playing about 40 to 50 minutes a game. Some he was playing 60. I think his biggest game for us was the one against the Warriors in round 18. He played 68 minutes. Unfortunately, that was his last game for us for a while. He then didn't play until round 25 against the Warriors, actually. But up until then, he was so good for us through the middle. He was our biggest body. He almost scored a try against the Eels in round 14, but didn't get to happen. But he was really good for us. Just a solid, big body, great defensive player. He had a 6 out of 10, though, because again, he was still fantastic, but I can't go much higher than a 6. Moving on to our hooker, Reed Marnie, the pest. He played, just like Kira, 25 games. He scored 4 tries, 12 try assists, and 5 line breaks. He scored his first try with us, round 3 against the Titans. Then he scored 1 against the Sharkies in round 17. Then got a try-double against Manly in round 26. He was just our leading hooker. There's not much else I can really say. He was really good. Great from dummy half. He did some good runs. A few of his kicks were really good. I'll give him that. However, just towards the back end of the year, I think the first half of the year, he was probably one of the best hookers in the comp. By round 7, he earned his title of being a bit of a pest, which I loved. He would kick from round 7 till next couple of weeks. He kept getting in their faces. I think from round 7 to 12 was when 13 was when he was at his absolute pestiest. And that was when he was at his absolute best as well. He was really good. He was good at getting the opposition players' heads. He was good at setting up the other boys for tries. He was really good. But towards the back end of the year, he had some really bad performances. Like that Cowboys game, he dropped the ball 3-4 times. That was a shocker. But he was still really good, though. I can't complain too much because he was fantastic for us. He did a lot. He was just a great personality to have around the club. However, I still give him a 6, though. He's got a lot to improve moving on to next year. And we move on to our other main prop, Sam Hughes. Played 25 games as well, so he was another player who played all the games this year. Scored 2 tries. both of them being in a span of 3 weeks, one against the Roosters and then the other one against Newcastle. But those were his first 2 tries, I think, ever. So that's all right. This is also his first main year with us. Yeah, he got to play 5 games with us last year, but this year was his main year, and he was really good. For a long time, he was like interchange. Then he became our starting prop from round 9 onwards. He was our starting prop. He was really good. It's a solid body. Not much else really. He wasn't too exciting. I think his worst moment though was when he dropped the ball in Golden Point against the Sharkies. Thankfully, Nico Hines missed that kick right in front. But otherwise than that, he probably would have won. They probably would have won the game from that drop ball from Sam Hughes. Again, he didn't get a whole lot of minutes for a while, like 36, 37, 40, 14 in one of them. But regardless, he was still solid for us. Give him about a 5 out of 10. We then move on to our leading second rower, Viliami Kikau. Played 23 games this year, scored 5 tries, 11 line breaks, and 8 line break assists. He had 44 offloads across the whole year. He scored his first try through that epic charge down he had against the Titans in round 3. He didn't score until he had that grubber kick chase against the Sharkies in round 17. Then he scored again in round 18 in the game where we were paying respect to Jeff Robinson. Then he scored against the Broncos in round 21. Then he scored first week of finals against Manly. He also got to play his 150th game this year against the Dragons at Cogra in round 23, which was fantastic. He almost scored a try that game too. From the first 11 rounds of the year, he was the leading second rower. He was really good. It was an absolute huge body. He set up Berto for a try. He was also his best game was round 5 when he was just an absolute freak. Several line breaks, try assist, knocked out a play by accident because the other player pretty much ran into his hip. But he was a machine. So many bulldozing tackles. He set up so many other players for tries. He had the tackle of the year against the Warriors on Lussick, which was that was phenomenal. So overall, he was fantastic for us. I'll give him a 7.5 out of 10. Moving on to our other second rower, Jacob Preston. He played 18 games this year and scored 6 tries. He scored his first try against the Titans this year in round 3. In round 4, I believe, broke his jaw, which took him out for 5 weeks. He then came back as an interchange against the Tigers, but didn't actually get to play. His first real game back was against the Panthers. He then went on a bit of a try-scoring run. He scored 1 against the Raiders, 1 against the Dragons, and 2 against the Newcastle Knights from rounds 11 through to 13. Then round 14, I believe he broke his ankle against the Eels. He broke his ankle, which then didn't see him for another 6 weeks. He then came back round 20. It was really solid for us. Then scored a try against Manly in round 26. But overall, had a bit of a quiet year, unfortunately, due to injuries, but he was still really good. When he was on the field, he was really good for us. And he's just one of rugby league's nice guys. So he was just great to have on the team. I'll give him a 6.5 out of 10. And the last player we'll cover for player ranks, because there's just so many players. Because the rest of them are all bench players, and it's a bit hard to assess bench players when they barely get to play. The last main player we'll talk about is Kurt Mann. He played 17 games this year, scored 2 tries, made 459 tackles, had a tackle efficiency of 92.4%. Scored his first try in round 9 against the Tigers after not playing for 4 weeks because of a finger injury. No, a wrist. The wrist or finger, 1 to 2. He was an interchange for a while, but then he became a lock, and when he was at lock, it was fantastic. He played with us all the way up until round 25, where he, I believe he did his collarbone, which took him out from 8 to 10 weeks, and obviously we didn't get to see him for the rest of the year. He was, in my opinion, the most underrated player in our squad. He was fantastic. He was really good. Like when he was on the field, he was commanding the middle a lot. He did a lot of like the little 1%ers that set up the big moments for other players. And, you know, he got to score 2 really good tries. The big one against the Dragons in round 23. It was right in front of me and a bunch of other Doggies fans. That was really good. Overall, I'll give him a 7 out of 10. Now, for these next few players, we'll just briefly talk about them. We won't go through all their stats. Bailey Hayward, he was really good. You know, solid debutant. He scored his first try on his second week of... He debuted round 6, and then round 7, he scored his first try. It was actually a really good one. It was a chase down. Callum Hong was waiting for the ball to go out, but it never did, and Hayward then put the ball down to score. Curtis Moran was just a proper dog this year. He was so good. For such a small body, he was giving it 110% every time he ran the ball. He even got to score a really good try against the Warriors this year. He was solid. So I give them both about 6 out of 10. Harry Hayes, he came on quite late, debuted around 20, but he was really good. Got to score his first try against the Warriors in round 25. He was really good. Jamin Salmon, he was good for like the first bit, and then he became a bit of a liability. He played 20 games with us this year, and he got to score 3 tries, all of them against the Roosters. He was just very disappointing towards the back end of the year. He kept dropping the ball, kept making really bad defensive reads. He was one of our weaker links this year. I'll give him about a 4 out of 10. And then quickly, we'll give Drew Hutchison a 2 out of 10 because he had like 2 good games with us. And I believe that's it really for player stats that I want to talk about. Obviously, there were a whole bunch of other players that got to play with us this year, but they were in and out of the squad. It was a bit hard to assess. Like, Jake Turpin got to play a little bit. Who else? I'm going to read through. Wilson, no, we'll talk. Taff and Wilson, they were both fantastic. I give them both about... Taff gets a 5.5 out of 10. Wilson gets about a 7 out of 10. Who else? Oh, yeah, one more player. Oh, you know what? Tyrese is going to kill me for not mentioning him. Big Josh Curran. We'll talk about him. He'll be the last player we'll talk about. Mainly because he was jersey 17 for us for a lot of games, so quite fitting that he's the last player we get to talk about. So Joshy Curran played 24 games this year, scored 3 tries, 22 tackle breaks, 17 offloads, made 756 tackles, and a tackle efficiency of 93%. He scored his first try against the Tigers in round 9, then scored 1 against Newcastle in round 13, and then scored 1 against the Cowboys in round 20. He was another heavily underrated player in our squad. He was so good. Every time he ran the ball, he was just giving 150%, kept pushing through players, kept charging, kept trying to, he wouldn't give up. He wouldn't just get tackled and just stop running. No, he'd keep running, keep pushing. Whenever we were advancing on the opposition's like 10 meter line, we're like about to score, he would always push every last possible muscle he could to try and get the ball over the line. So he was really good for us this year. Give him about an 8 out of 10. He was a solid player. Also, just quietly, a stat I forgot to read about for Reid Marnie. He made 1,240 tackles this year and a tackle efficiency of 91.6. Holy shit, that is an incredible stat. He was, I think, nearly every game he scored the most tackles for us. Like he had the most tackles, that's obviously an incredible feat, an incredible stat. So that is Bulldogs players. That's pretty much players ranked, giving them like score out of 10, just going through all their stats. Now I'm going to do our highest highs and our lowest lows. So our highest highs. We'll do our top 3 highest highs. Alright. And by highest highs, I don't mean like just simply like best game. I'm about like moments or just things that happen around the club that hit our highest highs. The very first one that I had to talk about was the round 22 win against the Raiders. Not the actual win itself, it was after the game. what started a 4-week period of constantly partying in Belmore after a win. But that was the first one, the biggest one, because that was after the Belmore game. We had cars beeping, streamers being thrown, people rattling cars, drums being beat, Bulldogs chants being rung out down the streets. We had chants going off. It was just such a great experience. And yes, I know we didn't win the grand final. Why were we celebrating? Because we were so starved of winning and so starved of being able to celebrate our team that when we got the opportunity to do it, we jumped at the opportunity because we could. We were just very happy to be winning. We were happy to be doing all this, to enjoy our club and enjoy that feeling of winning. So us partying in Belmore, that was easily one of the highest highs this year, getting a party in Belmore. Another one has to be the Parramatta win, beating our main rivals on the King's birthday, record-breaking crowd attendance with 45,000. That was such a standout. I was super impressed. That was the game to remember. And I think another one was getting some good old-fashioned revenge on Newcastle after they embarrassed us twice last year. We got to embarrass them twice this year. One of them being holding them trilers on their home soil. I think some more highs was just our players being general nice guys, interacting with fans, giving jerseys. I think that's just such a wholesome thing, and they're just part of the community. I think just another huge high was just the way the Bulldogs community and fans just all, we all united. We all celebrated together. Formed friendships, memories. I think that's just a great high for us to have this year. But in saying all that, we had some low lows. Of course, 3 of them being our 3 weeks straight of losses to, rounds 26 through to the first week of finals against Manly, Cowboys, and Manly again. Biggest one being the Cowboys loss 44-6, nearly conceding 50 points. That was truly our lowest low that game, and just that feeling. Another one was obviously the Manly game, round 26. That was the first time we lost at home. First time we conceded more than 30 points. That was just really disappointing. Of course, losing week 1 of finals by 2 points. I fucking cried after that game. That was just depressing. I was so gutted. That was another low. But then we got to, reminisce about the season, and it's a bit different now. Another one was our, whenever we had some big injuries for a while, that was kind of dark. That made me very worried about our team. The second half of that Roosters game. And then, of course, the whole Josh Adokar, incident with him, failing drug tests by police officers and him getting sacked, and just the really dark negative shadow that casted over the club, and it split the fans, it split the community. It was very, and then disheartening to have him sacked. It is what it is, actions have consequences. You did something stupid, you pay for it. It's just simple as that. No room for that sort of behavior at our club. It's a standard that we need to uphold. But yeah, those are some of our lowest lows and highest highs. So the next thing I want to cover is every game ranked. What I've done, I've grabbed all 25 games that we played this year, put them into a list, and I've ranked them. Instead of, when I was doing all the other teams, I'll just talk about their best wins and best losses, and I just go through the draw briefly. But this is my team. I want to cover it in a bit more depth. Some more than others. So at 25th, no surprise there. Dogs vs Cowboys round 27. That was just really shit. That was a terrible, terrible game. Gave it a 1 out of 10 purely because Sexton got to score his first try. Round 24, number 24 was Dogs vs Manly in round 26. That was not a terrible game. First loss at home. First time conceding 30 points. That was just really, really disheartening. But it wasn't too bad compared to the next one, or the last one. Those were our 2 terrible games. Then we had 3 bad games. We had, in 23rd, Dogs vs Para round 1. We never really looked like we were in it. You can tell that we hadn't played in a while, and we were still having that losing mentality, and we got pumped by Parramatta 26 points to 8. Then Dogs vs Sharks in round 2, we lost 25-6. That one's higher because we just competed a lot better in that game. Up until like the last 20 minutes, it was 6-6, and then we just let them run away with it, and then we got. Then to add salt to the injury, we then had a field goal put on us, but it is what it is. Then Dogs vs Roosters in 21 spot in round 16. I gave it a 4 out of 10 because Skelton got to score his first try, and that was a fantastic try, and he had that huge tackle on I think Junior Palga. But it was still a bad loss, 13 plus, getting embarrassed at Gosford in the rain, wearing an 04 Heritage jersey. And then these games, I put robbed because we had controversial calls in these 3 games. Dogs vs Raiders in round 11, purely because we failed to ice the game, we had a few dodgy calls. Dogs vs Cowboys in round 20, because Jared Sutton, the wanker, unable to call that try, that Hayward try, called it a no try even though it was a try. Dogs vs Souths, again, Sutton just being a piece of shit and being super biased on that game. I don't know why he still refs that game in particular, but that was easily, in my opinion, the most frustrating game to watch because I got so angry after that game. It was just so frustrating, so many shit calls, and just losing the Souths just never a good feeling. Now these were bad losses, but they weren't bad. They were losses, but it was literally the 2 top teams. I put in 17th, Dogs vs Panthers, round 10, and then 16th, Dogs vs Melbourne, round 6. They were both close losses to literally the two grand finalists. Like, one that being a premiership winner and minor premiers. And to only lose by a couple points. Like, the Melbourne one, we only lost by, 2 points? And that was purely because Birdo couldn't kick a conversion. Like, he kicked 1 out of 3. And the Panthers one was just because they were just so good. But we held them tryless the entire second half. They only scored 4 points through penalty goals. So in my opinion, those two were solid losses. Like, yeah, we lost, but they were solid performances. We really put up a fight. Now, this one gets a bit tricky. In 15th, I've put Dogs vs Manly's finals week 1. While it may have been the loss that hurt the most, it was honestly the best, only because we played so well that game. We were dominating for like 70 minutes. We were the dominant team. We were winning. We were the leading. We were scoring all the points, scoring the tries. We were the better team. It was just the last 10 minutes. We just failed to ice the game, and we lacked off. We slacked off. It is what it is. Now we move on to wins that we had that were good, but they weren't the best. Like, I think our worst win was the Tigers game in round 9. To only win it by 8 points. Like, it's good that we won, but at the same time, like, we should have won it by a bit more. And then in 13th spot was easily the weirdest game of the year. Like, not even just for us, just the weirdest game probably this year. Dogs vs Roosters round 5. We won 30 points to 26, but halftime was 26-0. Like, it was just a bizarre game. First half, we were so good. Like, that was our best first half we've had in, like, at least a couple of years. Second half was one of our worst. Look, we somehow let Daniel Tupou score a try on us when they had 11 men on the field and we had 13. That was a shocking game. But we won, so that's okay. And then Dogs vs Warriors round 25. I got it in 12th spot only because halftime was 18-6. Warriors were dominating us for the majority of that first half. Second half, yeah, we ran away with them. We ended up scoring and won, 34 points to 18. But, it was still a solid win. Don't get me wrong. Like, a 6.5 out of 10 is pretty good. Then in 11th spot, Dogs vs Newcastle round 7. That was just a really, really good win. Getting some revenge. Sherry scoring his first try for us. It was great. I almost didn't go to this game. I was so nervous about this game after the horrors of last year. But we got the win. and it was a convincing win. I was very happy with that performance. Then Dogs versus Dolphins round 24. It came out number 10. It was a really solid win. We only conceded 2 tries, one of them being through an intercept. Kira has the try double. That was a really solid game. We even had the Foxx chase down thing, like it was like about to score and Hammer got him. Yes, and maybe a negative for us. It was still a great moment. In 9th spot, Dogs versus Titans in round 3. I get that 8 out of 10. We won 32-0. It was really good. It was my first time on the hill. It was a huge Belmore win. I was on the hill for the first time. It was a great crowd, great experience. That was a lot of fun. That's in 9th. In 8th spot, Dogs vs Dragons round 23 at Kogarah. We won 28-10. That was a really good win. Berto with the intercept in the first half. Sherry with a try double thanks to Sexton. Kurt Mann then scoring in the second half. That was really good. Super happy with that, actually. And, it was great. It was a sellout crowd. Where I was on the hill area with a whole bunch of other content creator boys like Emilio, Touchline boys. I got to meet some new friends over there. Shout out Joey. It was great with my friends, content creators. We all got to hang out, enjoy the game. We were, mocking St. George. We were mocking the Dragons. And we're mocking, just them because it's a good rivalry. We got the win, 13+. We turned Kogarah into Belmore, from red and white to blue and white. It was just a great experience, great game. Super happy with that. And then in 7th spot, the Dogs vs Raiders game at Belmore in round 22. That was really good. 8 out of 10 as well. Foxx and Critter with a try double. The crowd was electric, sellout crowd, 20,000. And then the street to Belmore afterwards was phenomenal. It was fantastic. Then in 6th spot, the 8.5 out of 10, Dogs vs Warriors round 18. The game we honoured Jeff Robinson. Kick out with the tackle of the year. He scored a try while wearing jersey 11, honouring Jeff Robinson. Berto with the field goal for the back-to-back weeks. Getting that win and him doing it again, that was just a great, very anxiety-inducing, but it was still a fantastic game. Top 5. These games are all 9 out of 10 and above. These are the best games we had this year. First one, Dogs vs Newcastle in round 13. We won 32 points to 2. Foxx with the try double. Sherry with the try. Preston with the try double. Curran with the try as well. Sexton doing the goal kicking. We had no Burden, no kick out, no Crichton, and we still did it. And we still, not only did we beat them, we held them tryless. They only scored their first 2 points was from a penalty goal in the first half, and then we beat them. But we scored all the tries. We had 2 separate sin bins, one from Connor Tracy and then one from Toby Sexton, and we still didn't concede a try. That was easily one of our best games. 9 out of 10. That was outstanding. Next one was Dogs vs Sharks in round 17. The reason why that one's so high, even though we only won by 1 point, 15 points to 14, was because the Sharks have one of the best forward packs in the comp. They're a strong, dominant team, and our forward pack had to compete with them. 2 polar opposites. Easily one of the best versus one of the smallest, and we still beat them. We still won against all odds. We scored 12 points in the first half. They scored 14 in the second half, and we then got a penalty goal. And then Berto with the field goal off the post. Nico Hines missing the kick right in front of me as well. I thought he got it for a second, but he missed. Then Berto gets it. He wins. We all celebrate. That was my first time in the kennel ever. So that was such a great game. Now, top 3. I feel like everyone knows them by now, but I'll still talk about them. Round 3, in 3rd spot, Dogs vs Dragons, round 12. We won 44 points to 12, 9.5 out of 10. That was just fantastic. Where me and my mate Christian were sitting, we were pretty much sitting right in where they all scored their tries in the second half, where the right side just kept running and scoring. So we got to see Sabin with the try double, Kiwis with the try double, Crichton scoring that try, Preston scoring that try, Berto, yeah, he scored the try on the other side of the field, but we still saw it pretty much up close. That was just so good. And, especially because we were coming off back-to-back losses and then winning so convincingly. That's the first time we've scored 40-plus points since, 2012. That was a fantastic game. I was so, so happy with that. I remember losing my voice because of how loud I was. I was just so shocked and in awe that we were able to just score those kind of points. In second spot, Dogs vs Broncos, round 21. No Crichton, whole bunch of other players out injured. We got the Suncorp where we haven't won in 9 years versus a fully fit Broncos outfit that came off a confident win. We just come off a bad loss. And we beat them 41 points to 16. Gets a 9.5 out of 10. That was so good. We scored, in my opinion, the try of the year with the skeleton try. And it was just a phenomenal game. I've spoken about it so much on this podcast, not just this episode, but just in general on other podcast episodes. That game was so good. I remember watching it with my uncle. It was just a great experience. Just a great game. 9.5 out of 10. But without a doubt, the number one game for the Bulldogs and my game of the year, Dogs vs Para, round 14. We won 22 points to 18. I gave this a 10 out of 10. Fantastic game. 7-1 penalty count at one point. Parramatta pretty much controlling the majority of that game. We had a man in the sin bin, 3 different injuries, 2 to concussion, 1 from an ankle, and we still pulled it off. We still beat them. We still won the game. That was just something I'm never going to forget. I remember screaming, losing my voice, I was going insane because I was just so shocked that we did this. I was so happy, so proud of this club that we pulled that win off. I'm so proud of this club for this year. I was going to be with my dad, uncle, bunch of my mates, shout out Liam and Christian. We sat where all the Para fans were by accident. We got the wrong tickets, but we sat with all the Para fans, and it was just a great game, great experience. And yeah, I remember losing my voice. And for me, game of the year for the Bulldogs, fantastic, 10 out of 10. I was just so, so happy with that. So that's my ranking of all the Bulldogs games from this year. So now I'm going to do quickly my overall thoughts of... Well, I've already done that essentially, but I just want to quickly do just how I've overall felt about the Bulldogs this year. And I think the word to use was just pride. I've just been so, so proud of this club. So proud of what they were able to achieve. Coming off a year we had, one of our worst defensive years in so long. It was a really poor year. We had players, arguing against the club. We had, so much adversity face us, and we still persevered. And, coming to this year, coming in 2024, we had so much against us. Small forward pack. People were laughing at us saying we signed all these utilities, but we still persevered. We still pushed through it all. And we had such a fantastic year. Yes, we came 6th and we lost first week of finals, but we had so much go against us and we just kept going. Dodgy calls from refs, injuries, stuff that top teams, when they have these stuff face them, they push through and they keep going. That's what we did. We played finals for the first time in 8 years. I got to go to my first ever home finals game ever. I got to enjoy that, even though we lost and I cried, but regardless, fantastic. And yeah, but if I had to describe how I felt about this club this year, I was just so proud of them. So much confidence, and I just simply cannot wait for next year. It's just, next year cannot come any quicker. So, in saying that, I now got to give them a score and ranking, or rating out of 10. And so, we're saying that for the Bulldogs that came in 6th spot, I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10 with a score of A-, only because they lost first week of finals and had those really bad last couple of weeks. But still, Bulldogs get an 8 out of 10 with an A-. So proud of them, so proud of what they were able to achieve, and I just cannot wait for next year. And so with that, that's the end of footy in 2024. That's it, no more games to watch, no more tips and predictions, no more reviews for games. It's come to an end. And, it's also the end of off-season. Clubs are now back at pre-season. I think on Monday, Bulldogs were started their pre-season, So that's it. We're now all gearing up for the 2025 season. I cannot wait. I have a whole bunch of pre-season videos I want to, record and release for everyone to watch. That's going to be something huge to talk about and cover. But yeah, footy for 2024 has come to a close. But we've got some early sneak peeks for 2025. So the NRL draw comes out on Thursday. Like the main draw itself comes out this Thursday, 11 a.m. At the time of recording, it comes out tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. However, we've already gotten some early sneak peeks into what to expect in 2025. So I'm going to cover the NRL Round 1 2025. I'm going to review it, give it my thoughts, and then my dream Round 1. And the same thing will be done for NRL Magic Round 2025, where I'll give my review, thoughts, and my dream Magic Round. So first we'll cover the Round 1 fixtures. So the two Vegas games will kick off the season on the 2nd of March, 11 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. Raiders and Warriors, and then Panthers and Sharks. On the Thursday evening, the 6th of March, 8 p.m., Roosters vs Broncos. Then on the Friday, Tigers vs Newcastle, and then Dolphins vs Rabbitohs. On Saturday, the 8th of March, 5:30 p.m., Dragons and Bulldogs. And then 7:35, Manly and Cowboys. And the last game for Round 1 at 4:05 p.m, Melbourne vs Parramatta. And the Titans have the bye. Now, I'm actually quite happy with this schedule, with this lineup of games. I'm very happy with this. I think it wasn't what I entirely anticipated, but I was still very happy with this. Obviously, the Vegas games we knew. And also, they've said stadiums are to be confirmed. Or TBC, so to be confirmed. So, but we can kind of assume where each game is going to be at. Like, we know Roosters are the home team, so it's at Allianz. Manly are the home team, so it's going to be probably a Brookie. Melbourne are the home team, so it's in Melbourne. The only ones where it gets a bit confusing is like Dolphins, Dragons, and Tigers. Tigers versus Newcastle, that could be either at Leichhardt or Campbelltown. With Dolphins, since it's the Friday 8:05, I think they're probably going to do it at Suncorp instead of at, KO Stadium. And the one I'm most excited for, obviously, Bulldogs vs Dragons, Saturday 5:30. Whether it be at the Gong or a Cogra, I'm still going to go to this game. I cannot wait. This is going to be a sellout, and I'm super excited. I think I put on my story how long the wait's going to be, because in 3 months, 15 days, and 8 hours will be when Dogs vs Dragons commences. Like that day, obviously the actual 5:30 is a bit different. So, NRL Round 1, how I would have done it, obviously the Vegas games, they got to stay. That goes without a doubt. The Vegas games have to stay. If I was to do the other ones, for the Thursday night game, I would put the Dolphins and Rabbitohs game. Friday 6 p.m, I still would have kept Tigers and Newcastle. I then would have put the Roosters and Broncos Friday 8 p.m. And then I'd put Melbourne and Warriors for the 5:30 game in Melbourne. I'd keep Manly and Cowboys at for 7:35, and I'd put the Bulldogs and Dragons game Sunday 4:05. I think they'd get a really good crowd at like the Gong or at Cogra. Doesn't really matter. And then, but like the main round one, my early drafts for it. Obviously, the two Vegas games have to stay. I would have put it was confirmed a while back that Dolphins and Souths were going to play round 1. I would have put them on the Thursday night. Then Friday 6 p.m, I would have put Tigers and Titans round 1, Friday 6 p.m. I then would have put Roosters and Manly at Allianz. Then Saturday 5:30, I would have put like Manly and Melbourne and Manly. And then for the 7:35, I would have put like Bulldogs and Newcastle in Newcastle. Or actually, I would have swapped. I would have put Bulldogs and Newcastle 5:30, and then Melbourne and Manly 7:35. And then the Sunday game would have been like a Queensland Cup game. Yeah, Queensland. I would have put Titans. No, I would have put Parramatta versus Tigers for the 6 p.m. and I would have put a Queensland derby of Cowboys versus Titans Sunday 4:05, or actually no, Titans versus Cowboys, and then Broncos get the bye. But wasn't meant to be, and instead this is the draw. I'm so happy with it. Don't get me wrong. But regardless, looking forward to that for next year. So now we have Magic Round for 2025. That was announced just this morning. So the games are as followed. On Friday night, Sharks and Parramatta, then Roosters and Dolphins. On Saturday, 3 p.m, Souths and Newcastle. Then at 5:30, Warriors vs Cowboys. Then 7:45, Tigers and Dragons. On the Sunday, 1:50 p.m, Titans vs Bulldogs. Then Panthers vs Broncos at 4:05. And then at 6:25, Melbourne and Raiders. Now, look, I think they made a bit of a mess of this. I'm going to be completely honest. Like, some of these placements of these games are just so wrong. Like, if I was to place these games, this is how I would do it. I would have kept Sharks and Eels at 6 p.m. I would have put Panthers vs Broncos for the Friday 8 p.m. Then for the Saturday games, I would have put Warriors vs Cowboys at 3 p.m. Dogs vs Titans at 5:30. Roosters and Dolphins at 7:45. Then the 1:50 game, I would have put Tigers vs Dragons. The 4:05, Melbourne vs Raiders. And then the last game should have been Souths vs Knights. Like, I can't believe they put Tigers and Dragons as the prime time game at 7:45. Like, two teams that just aren't that good at the moment. I don't know why they're the main game, but people who get paid clearly must know something I don't. They're paid professionals. Regardless, it's I'm more just confused with the games themselves. I'm not that disappointed with. It's not what I would have expected, but I'm not disappointed by it. But what I am a bit annoyed with is the placement of those games. I think they kind of whack most of those placements. And again, you guys just heard my dream Magic Round, the ideal Magic Round, and yeah, again, I have no real expectations for the actual like teams, like who I would have put against who, but the placement of those games was kind of important, and yeah, I think the way I did it would have been a bit better, but clearly there's people who are much older than me and actually paid to do it must know something I don't. And so that is Magic Round, NRL Magic Round 2025 review, and like my thoughts on it and my dream NRL Magic Round. But yeah, back to this really quickly for NRL Round 1 2025. Again, I'm very happy with the placement of those games. It's just, no, I'm happy with the games themselves. Again, both of them, I'm not disappointed with the actual games. It's more about the placement of those games. But again, Round 1, they cooked with Round 1. They did a really good job with Round 1. I'm very happy with it. Like, there's a lot of stakes for all those games. And I do think, just quietly, the biggest game of the round actually could potentially be Dogs vs Dragons. Because you have a look at it, the two Vegas games, like, it is what it is. It's gonna get a good crowd. That's fine. Roosters and Broncos, like, that'll be a solid game. But it's two teams that, like, one team did really well last year, one didn't. But both teams, like, I don't think are going to do well next year. I think Roosters might not do well next year. Broncos have a chance. The 6 p.m. game, like, that's just, a team was going to have the versus Tigers Round 1 if they didn't have the bye. I think Newcastle's probably the most evenly matched team to have at the moment, because they still need to sort out their halves pairing, and who knows what's going on with them. The only other game I can see might having a bigger impact, Dolphins and Souths, like, that's the Wayne Bennett Cup. You know, it's two teams that he's coached recently. Actually, it's two most recent teams that he's coached. Now he's back at Souths. First time he's versing the Dolphins. That'll be very interesting. Dogs vs Dragons, like, we already covered it last year for last year's season, like this year, when in round 23. Like, that's a big lot of storylines going to these two. You know, it's Clint Gutherson, Damien Cook, Val Holmes, their first times playing for the Dragons this year, or like it's their new first time. And the Dogs, you know, trying to beat the second year syndrome potentially. So they have a lot to prove. And then Manly versus Cowboys, that'll just be a top 8 clash, essentially, because both teams were in the top 8 last year. And then the big one, or the one I think is the funniest to watch, Melbourne versus Parramatta, because this Parramatta are pretty much, they're the official sacrifice for Melbourne round 1. Because again, I think since 2002 or 3, Melbourne have never lost round 1. So I think of all clubs for them to verse round 1, I think it being Parramatta and that being the last game of the round is kind of funny. And I'll look forward to watching that, because I think Melbourne are going to win this thing like 30 plus. I hope they do, because I really don't want Parramatta to be the team that ends the drought or ends the streak for Melbourne. I hope Melbourne continue to streak. Because when I was thinking about who's going to play round 1, my biggest concern was that Dogs were going to be versing Melbourne round 1. I would have been sick, because Melbourne don't lose round 1, especially after the grand final loss. They're going to want to let out some frustration, I believe. But overall, I'm very happy. Also, just quickly, another thing that just quickly crossed my mind. Dogs versus Titans at Magic Round. I'm very happy with that, honestly. And it's back-to-back years that the Dogs have played on Star Wars Day, 4th of May. They versed Tigers this year, Saturday, 4th of May. Now they're versing Titans, Sunday, 4th of May. And obviously there's a bit of history now between the two clubs. There was the Birdo and Tino incident at Origin in 2022. And then, Des Hasler's now the coach of Titans, who Des Hasler's notorious for screwing over the Bulldogs and playing a role in their downfall, those really dark years. So now they're versing a Magic Round. As much as I would love to go Magic Round, I don't think I'm going to go next year. I want us to win a Magic Round first beforehand, because we've never won Magic Round. The only two teams that have never won Magic Round yet since its inception is Bulldogs and Dragons. So if Bulldogs can win Magic Round this year, and maybe I'll go 2026. Maybe. We'll see, but I think I might skip out for next year. And, I think with that, we're done for the day. Alright, everybody. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Wild Doggies Fan podcast. If you're new here, please like the video, comment down below, subscribe, and stay tuned for all future videos. Thank you all for listening to episode 15. We covered a lot on this episode. Pacific Championships, re-signing news, signing news, NRL 2024 wrap-up, hitting my milestone, the season review for the Bulldogs themselves, the end of footy for 2024, then our round 1 and Magic Round previews for 2025, plus my thoughts and dream rounds for each of them. Now, stay tuned though. Coming soon, the NRL 2025 draw video. That will be episode 16. Now, I'll give you a little sneak peek from now. There will be more than one person in this video, and it's going to be a very special and lengthy video. It will also be the beginning of the Wild Doggies Fan pre-season. So stay tuned for that. There may be a special guest on the next video, and we'll be covering the entire draw. So stay tuned for that. That will be coming soon. And for those of you who stay track on this sort of stuff, the NRL draw does come out tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. The video won't come out tomorrow. However, the draw does come out tomorrow. So if you want to get a look at it before I do a video on it, I recommend it. I can't wait to cover this draw. This has been a video I've been planning for ages, and now that we have a confirmed date for the draw, it's a lot easier to organize when the video I want to make for the draw will be made. So stay tuned for that. So stay subscribed to this channel so you can stay up to date with that. And yeah, thank you all for listening to this episode, and I'll see you all next week for another episode of the Wild Doggies Fan podcast.